Welcome to the Wandering Pilgrims podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we will be doing the 5th installment in our Pilgrims Progress discussion series. Just to give you a little information about it, it is written by John Bunyan in the 1600s. For about 200 years, it was the second best-selling book outside the Bible. But in the past 100 years, it's kind of fallen out of favor in the world. And we definitely think that it's something that needs to be brought back and put back into the hands of people of faith and people trying to understand and learn more about their faith. I will say, spoiler alert, I've been pretty bad about not including that in the past podcasts anyway, but definitely spoiler alert, because we would definitely recommend that you either read along with this or read it and then come back to it or just do a refresher, because there's really a lot here. So, quick recap, I guess. This follows the story of Christian/Graceless at the beginning. And you can check out all of the other podcasts we've done from beginning to now about his journey. Last episode, we dealt with his fight with Apollyon, the Valley of Humiliation or Humility, the Valley of the Shadow of Death, and him meeting up with Faithful. So this episode will pretty much just be discussing where they end up next, which is a huge part of the story. And with that, let's get ready to dive in. So this episode probably covers the part that I love to talk about the most. And it is a town called Vanity.
Yep.
In Vanity, they have a
fair.
A never-ending fair. So, it is called Vanity Fair.
Yep.
There's so much here. I just want to say that before we even dive in. And especially to me, this is one of the most relatable parts to now out of the whole book. So I really like dissecting it.
Yeah.
So let's see. So let's talk about vanity in and of itself. The word vanity. So vanity, a lot of people think of looks when they think of vanity, because you actually get ready and put your makeup on at a vanity.
Yeah.
So conceited, self-important, inflated sense of self or pride. I think those are all good ways to put it, to kind of round it out a little more.
The way you want the world to view you rather than the way that you are.
And typically people have, when you have someone that personifies vanity, it's typically in an area of their life, either their appearance or things they own, jobs they have, things like that. So I'm guessing that was a problem then.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's an issue that Paul talks about in his letters to Timothy. He talks about it. These women in the church that...
That's right. I remember what you're talking about.
That wear pretty clothes.
They were going for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
All right.
Yep, it's talked about several times. And any reference, as far as I know, any reference to Vanity Fair, this is the first reference of the term Vanity Fair that I've ever heard of.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. But it makes sense, seeing as what the book is about.
Yeah. So
magazine.
yeah. So that kind of gives us a broader perspective on the place that Christian or faithful are going now.
Yeah.
So it's a place full of people and things that feel self-important, that are conceited, that care about appearance and looks. They're very superficial here and materialistic.
Yep.
So when we begin this journey into Vanity Fair in the book, it starts talking about the history of the place Vanity Fair.
Why it's there.
And who set it up. Because let's be honest, either there was this very nice place that he got to stop on his journey, Christian, or it was not a good place.
Yeah.
There wasn't any fakery, I guess, because that's kind of how I think of this place, is it's a facade.
Yeah.
To look pretty, to seem, materialism it goes hand in hand with it a lot of the time. So this is the first place, I think, where if they hadn't been warned about it, it would have been one of the harder ones to pick out.
Yeah.
If they didn't know going in what they were in for, at least a little bit. So Vanity Fair, they tell us, was set up thousands of years ago on the path to the celestial city on purpose.
Yep.
By three people. Well,
three beings.
Beelzebub, Apollyon, and Legion. So they did it because they knew pilgrims would have to go through it.
Yep.
Everything you could ever imagine or want in this world
is sold at Vanity Fair.
So they even talk about what all you can buy there. So you can buy houses to add to vanity. You can buy lands to add to vanity. They say trades in one version. I believe they're alluding to jobs.
Yeah.
Honors and titles. Countries and kingdoms even could be sold there and bought there. And then, of course, they go into the lusts and pleasures and those kind of, you understand where they're going, right? All of these seem, I don't know, you would expect them to be there when you're thinking about this place. But then they get to these parts where, I don't know, to me it's ones that you would have to be more careful of.
Yeah.
Because it starts listing wives and husbands and children. I mean, and then of course it picks back up with gold and silver and jewels and servants and everything else. But in the middle of this is husbands, wives, and children. Yep. Things that are sold at Vanity Fair for you to take superficial pride in, potentially. So are we talking trophy wife here? Or something? I mean...
Well, there are places in the world today where you can still buy a husband or buy a wife. You can buy as many adopted children as you want.
That's true.
Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't adopt children. Obviously, if that's what you want to do, you should do it. But what you shouldn't do is do it as a status thing. To say, look at all these kids that I've helped.
Yeah.
You know.
I can see that.
And I think that's in part of what it's saying. All of these things in and of themselves, as achievements, are okay.
Yeah, it's okay to have a house, a land, to earn a title.
It's totally okay. But specifically
maybe
buying
not the lusts
them,
and pleasures so much.
Things are being sold at this fair specifically for vanity.
Yeah.
And
for your own ego boost.
Exactly.
They're not there for you to work hard to achieve them.
Yeah.
You can pay money and it's yours. Or, well, we're assuming money.
Yeah.
But, so, this place is definitely unlike any of the others we have discussed yet in this book. And there are, I don't know how many people who listen to this have been to a fair, like a county fair or a state fair. And you have rows and rows and rows of things to eat and things to buy and everything. So this fair is set up like that. It tells us each row basically is a country, different country and everything. So they show off all of their best things from that country in each row. But, again, I find this funny after we talked about the giants. In the long version, again, he makes a note of the fact that Rome is the chief row with the chief commodities here, but that Britons don't care for them much anymore. Yeah. Basically. And I'm like, really? So we're talking about...
Second reference.
Let's throw that in there again. All right. Okay. Yeah. But I know we talked about it a little more with the giants in the other episode, so I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole again. Because that's just... Man, that shows you the times, don't it?
Yeah.
It was written.
I mean, it's a... Yeah.
But... Anyway, okay. They kind of make a comparison of the fair to when Jesus was tempted in the desert by the devil. And that he was tempted by all of these things, and he was offered the world, he was offered the kingdoms, and he turned them down. So the reference here was a nice addition, a nice correlation there, or at least I thought so. So that kind of sets up the entry to our Pilgrims. Yeah. Gives us all the background. So faithful and Christian go in now to this place. And apparently they stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
For several reasons.
Yeah. So the clothes that they're wearing, number one, as far as I know, Christian is still wearing
armor.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what Faithful is wearing, but it's kind of referenced as clothes that are befitting to who they are.
Yeah.
They're humble clothes. They're not,
well, Christians are warriors' clothes.
Yeah. But they're going through, and everyone else is wearing all these colors and all these clothes of vanity.
Colorful.
Trying to show off. So everyone stares at them because they're dressed funny. They're dressed humbly.
Well, didn't they also talked differently?
Yeah.
Like the people couldn't understand them.
Yeah, and I think this may be the first time it's referenced in the book what language they speak. They talk funny. It's hard for everyone else to understand them because it says that their natural language is the language of Canaan.
And the people at the fair don't
They don't speak
that.
It.
Well, I think the biggest thing, aside from those two things, stuck out to people.
Yeah.
Because this is a fair. You're going to have foreigners from time to time. You're going to have people that dress funny from time to time. But they wouldn't buy anything.
No. They wouldn't buy anything.
Or even look at it.
Nope.
And then again, here we are again. When people come up and talk to them, they put their fingers in their ears again.
Yep.
And they started looking up to heaven so that they wouldn't see what was being offered to them.
Yeah.
Well, finally, I guess somebody walked up to him and goes, okay, if you're not going to buy anything, what do you want? Like, what do you want from us? What do you want to buy? We have it. What do you want to buy? What did they say?
Faithful looks at the man and says, we buy the truth.
Well, that caused a ruckus.
Yeah. Because they don't sell the truth in Vanity Fair.
No.
They sell everything in the world but the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So this enrages a lot of people.
To the point of they end up getting arrested.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because they are deemed the cause of this, they are beaten and put in a cage like on display so that they can be made a spectacle and people can throw rocks at them and kick them and make sport of them and all this stuff. But they took their punishment with such humility that people actually started arguing for them in Vanity Fair. Well, that caused another uproar.
Yeah.
And another fight broke out.
Mm-hmm.
So then they decided to punish them again. So they beat them again, put them in chains, and led them around the town, as an example.
Yep.
Like, this is what you get if you cause problems in our town.
Yep.
And again, they took their punishment, which again enraged people. And other people stood up for them and were like, they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
But this time, when the people got enraged, they started calling for blood.
Yep.
And this is when they get ready to be put on trial. And before we go there, I would like to, at least for me, point out the correlation of Christ leading up to crucifixion.
Yeah.
Because there were people who were saying he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And by the end, Pilate tried all these other things. He ends up beaten, whipped, everything imaginable. Pilate tried all of those things to appease these people because he didn't believe he deserved crucifixion.
Yeah.
But they didn't care. They were out for blood.
Yep.
And that's essentially what you have going on here. People who didn't deserve what they got or taking it.
Yeah.
It with meekness and humility and love and kindness. So now we get to the trial. And this is where it starts getting more in depth and more, I don't know. There's more characters in play here.
Yeah.
So the first thing we learn about the trial is the judge.
Lord Hategood.
It's
not a very nice man.
Who would have ever thought from that name?
Yep. Lord Hategood. Who would rather just execute them, period, without a trial.
Yeah.
But
have to follow the law.
Because they're civil.
Yes, we're civil.
They have to follow the law.
Right.
So he calls 3 witnesses.
Well, before we get to the 3 witnesses, Judge Hategood called them disturbers and enemies, and he charged them with changing people's minds to their quote-unquote dangerous opinions.
Yep.
So, that's a crime, changing people's mind to quote-unquote dangerous opinions. Well, Faithful answered him. Right? He said, well, first off, we didn't really disturb anybody.
Yeah.
We're men of peace. We're peaceful. We're just trying to get through your town. And then, as far as people, he was like, people whose minds were changed, they were changed because they saw how we were.
Yeah.
They were changed because they saw the truth. And the truth was that we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then, lastly, because the king of this place is Beelzebub, Faithful decides to say something along the lines of, I defy him and all his angels, because he is the enemy of my prince.
Yep.
Do you think that really helped his case any?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't really think it did.
But he wasn't out to do.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. He was out to say the truth.
Yep.
And Judge Hategood really didn't like that.
He did not like that.
So then they called the 3 witnesses.
Yep. Called 3 witnesses.
The names of these witnesses were Envy, Superstition, and Pickthank. And for anybody wanting to know what that means, because I went and looked it up, it means a yes man or a tattler. Mm-hmm. Someone that likes to get attention from authority figures.
Yep.
Affirmative attention from authority figures.
Mm-hmm.
So, Envy was first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he said, what did he say?
So he starts off with saying that he's known Faithful for a very long time.
That's right. Envy lied about knowing him for a long time.
And how he said all manner of bad things against the judge.
I didn't think he said it about the judge. Pickthank. I think that's Pickthank.
No.
Did Envy do it too?
Yeah. Envy started with the judge, and he said that he called. He says some choice words. Says that he has said choice words about the judge,
against the judge,
and that he's a brigand and a vile fiend.
Okay.
And then he passes the buck. Oh, he says that I've given plenty of testimony, but just in case the other witnesses don't give enough, I'll give some more when they're done.
Well, isn't Envy the one that said that Faithful had told him that Christianity and the laws of their town were incompatible?
Yes.
Which was the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't like the truth. They don't sell the truth there.
Yep.
So they don't really like the truth when the truth is spoken.
Mm-hmm.
So Envy had his turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many people have met an Envy?
I'm sure quite a few.
I'm pretty sure most people have met an Envy. Mm-hmm. So next we have up Superstition.
Yep.
And he at least said that he didn't know him very well. But that Faithful had told him that the religion in Vanity was... I'm trying to think of a proper word. What do you think's the best word?
He says that the religion in Vanity and Vanity Fair is directly opposed to Christianity.
And that they worship in vain.
Yep.
Well, it's in Vanity, so of course they worship in vain.
Yeah.
Their worship is more about glory for themselves and vanity, vain vanity, than whatever or whomever they're worshiping. So next was Pickthank. And he said that he had known Faithful for a long time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Pickthank, so I guess let's take in this character for a minute, okay? Because Pickthank is not a word we use a lot.
Yeah.
So you've got this yes man, tattler
yeah,
kind of person, and everybody has met one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're ever anyone's favorite person. Because to be one of those, you're always out for yourself.
Yeah.
Primarily.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess more than the other two, since they're out Pickthink is out for himself,
Yeah.
more so than the other two. He wants the most attention, the most noteworthy testimony. He wants to be recognized as having the most impact and everything in his testimony against Faithful. So after he's lied and said that he's known him for a long time, he's telling the judge and the jury, because there is a jury here, that he spoke against their king, Beelzebub. And then he spoke out against his friends, all of which are lords, by the way. And he lists them off. Lord Old Man, which currently I still don't really understand. Lord Carnal Delight. Lord Luxurious. Lord Desirous of Vainglory. That sounds like somebody who has a lot to do with vanity. Fair. And another one is called Lechery, which basically means lustfulness. And then he goes a step further. So he doesn't just leave it at Faithful spoke out against all these high, powerful people and beings in the town. He spoke out against you, Judge Hategood. He called you an ungodly villain. So yeah, basically Judge Hategood was irate at this point, and
he flies off the handle.
He's just trying to move through it quickly. And then Faithful's like, can I talk?
Yeah. So he answers them. He gives 3 responses for the 3 witnesses. And for Envy's testimony, he says, people living within a place whose rules and laws that are against God are diametrically opposed to Christianity.
Diametrically.
So if you live in a place where the rule of law is opposed to the will of God, you can, and you believe in that law, you therefore cannot be Christian.
Yeah, I can see that.
You can't.
Because you'd constantly be living in sin.
Yeah.
Willingly so.
Exactly. So, to Superstition, his response is, to worship God requires faith. To have faith requires knowing the will of God and His Word. Anything added to the faith that is not the will or word of God does not agree with the Word, comes from the faith of man, and that is a faith that can only lead to destruction.
Well, that's loaded for nowadays.
Basically, he's saying, if it's not the Word of God, it's not the truth. If you're adding things to what the book already says, it's not true.
Or trying to find things that aren't there.
Yeah.
I don't typically think of the Bible as a read between the lines kind of book.
Well, yeah, it's not. I mean, this is a book that started out as many different books.
Well, it's still many different books.
And because there was such a difference in people, what people wanted to read from it, and from these separate books, a council was held, and they collected all these books.
Created the canon.
And created the canon, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is where the term canon comes from that we use in pop culture. But, yeah, so anything that is added by men can only come from men, and therefore is not true.
Well, it also touches on knowing, you've got to know the Word, you've got to have faith That's where your faith comes
Yeah.
from. When anything's added, if you don't know the word for yourself, then you can't pick out when somebody's adding to it.
Exactly.
And distorting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important that that's one of the reasons we started this podcast, is to encourage people to get back to reading it for themselves.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean don't listen to your pastor.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure it's your soul.
Yeah.
It's your life.
It's your journey.
Yeah. You want to make sure that you're on the right path, and that you're following the right leaders. And I would think that most good pastors would not have a problem with you walking up after service and going, I didn't really, I thought it meant this, so I don't really understand. I don't think they'll have a problem with that.
No.
And if they do, that might be why you didn't connect with the sermon. So it's really important for us to know it for ourselves.
Yeah. So, thirdly, to think, he says, the prince of this town, being who he is, created all of the things in this fair. These things being fit for a being from hell. Basically, what he's saying
That's cheerful.
is Beelzebub, your king, created all of the stuff in this town because it's things that he likes. He can have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're meaningless.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, they certainly are.
Mm-hmm. So, the judge refers to the jury, who's been standing there listening the whole time. And these jurors have names like Blind Man and Malice, Live Loose, High Mind, Enmity, Liar, Cruelty, Implacable, and refers them to make their decision. But before they do, he wants to remind them of the law. These three laws being the first law that he has broken, being put forth by the Pharaoh the Great to kill all baby boys so that their faith wouldn't grow strong.
Or their people.
This was to prevent mischievousness.
So basically, the law from Moses' time.
Yeah, Exodus 1:22 is where this is referenced.
And they called Pharaoh the Great a servant of their Lord.
Of Beelzebub.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All three of these lawmakers are servants.
Okay.
Nebuchadnezzar creates a law by which those who do not worship his golden image should be thrown into the fiery furnace.
Yep. That's the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Mm-hmm.
From Daniel 3.
Yep, 16 through 18. And then Darius, to call on any god other than him, would end you up in the lion's den.
So we're talking Daniel 6 here.
Daniel 6. All of these laws were therefore broken by faithful simply for the fact that he was born, he spoke out, and his deeds.
Yep. Didn't take much to break a law, did it?
So then these jurors they leave.
They deliberate for like 10 minutes?
Like all of 2 seconds. And they come back, and he asks them what their verdict is. A blind man is the first one.
He was the foreman, right?
Yeah, he was the foreman. Blind man says, see clearly, he is a heretic.
Yeah, the blind man says, see clearly.
Hetty says, hang him. A couple more call him, sorry scrub, and they call him names.
Away with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Hang him.
Hang him. Cruelty says, hanging is too good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Implacable says, even for all the world, I couldn't like him, so let's hang him.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to give him the cruelest death imaginable. So they scourged him, beat him, cut him with knives, stoned him, pricked him with swords, and then finally they burned him to ash at the stake. Which is
a relatively common way to go when John Bunyan was writing this.
Yeah.
At least the last one.
Yeah, your executions weren't just a singular method of execution.
Nope.
They tended to prolong it. But here's the catch. Here's what none of them realized.
They just shortened his journey.
Exactly. Because when he dies, there's behind the crowd. When he dies and his enemies have finished with him, there's a chariot with several horses that pull it. And as soon as he's dead, as soon as he dies, he gets on the chariot, and the chariot whisks him away up into the clouds, which is the shortest way to the gate to the celestial city.
Yep. What do you think? I mean, we'll talk about Christian before we close the episode, but and his fate. Since pretty much most of what you're going to hear in Vanity Fair has to do with Faithful, although Christian's there beside him. But most of it's Faithful and how his journey ends up.
Yeah.
What do you take from Vanity Fair?
Well, there's one more thing that I want to add. In some versions of the book, Christian and Faithful kind of have a last word with each other before Faithful is executed, and Christian he's freaking out, obviously.
Yeah.
But Faithful, as they carry him away, as they drag him away to be executed, Faithful turns to Christian and he says, "Do not be afraid, brother, for I go ahead of you."
Yeah.
Don't be afraid for me. All they're doing is shortening my journey.
Yep.
So he's not afraid of what they're going to do to him. Because he knows the end game. He knows what's coming. Mm-hmm. But Vanity and Vanity Fair draw a lot of parallels with today.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that then. There's even more of it now.
Yeah.
In an age where all I have to do is pick up the phone and I can buy whatever I want to distract me from what's actually important.
Well, and how often so much of our lives now, especially in a Western country, they're filled with nothing but distractions. Mm-hmm. And most of those distractions are, in some way, shape, or form, help us with our own personal, I guess, identity of ourselves, our status, or how we see ourselves in the community, our job, and how we look at work.
Yeah.
And then, even with the kids, how many sports can you put the kids in? What are your kids' stats? Mm-hmm. It starts early. And those kinds of things, although there's nothing wrong with kids playing sports, it's just the example. But that can take up so much time and be a distraction if you're not careful with it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the things being sold and traded in Vanity Fair. All of them were shiny things. Shiny things distract.
Yeah.
It's new, it's shiny, new car. Because, you know, it and it's hard in our nature to not go, look at what I just got.
Yeah.
I got this new super shiny thing. I got to take a picture of it. I got to put it on the internet. I got to send it to my friends.
Let me show everyone. Yep. See, and this is the thing, like in this book specifically, the reason this book was so popular for so long, and why it leads to, no matter who reads it, they understand it.
Yeah.
Because this book is about, it's very obviously about life. The difference is that on this journey that Christian has taken, he's seeing all of these places as separate places.
People.
Or people. We don't live in these separate places.
No, it's all going on at once.
It's all going on all at one time. We live in the city of destruction and Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
And all of these other places.
Morality,
all at the same time. Yeah. Morality, Vanity Fair.
Legality's here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Worldly wise man on the TV or on your phone.
It's all about distracting you from what is important. Everything that you do is about distracting you from what is important. When you're on your phone, when you're on Amazon, or when you're shopping on your phone, when you go to the store, when you're on Instagram, when you're at work. Yes, your job is a distraction from what's important. Because
it can very easily turn into one.
If you sit back and you think about it, what do you need to survive? What did they have in the Bible? Food, water, a little bit of agriculture.
Yeah.
You can survive
that doesn't
on
mean
that
Paul didn't
there are TV,
survive being a tent maker.
This is true. There's nothing wrong with saying that you can't make money. By all means, everyone does. Everyone needs a job.
But
you got to pay for your stuff.
Paul was making money to live on, to continue his mission.
Yeah.
He wasn't living to work.
Mm-hmm.
And in the city of destruction, people literally were living to work.
Yeah.
Some people live to work because they're over their heads in debt. Mm-hmm. Other people live to work because of more of a Vanity Fair type thing, and it's a job that they
want to buy things,
that they enjoy the status for, or that they love very much. I mean, a lot of people do love their jobs,
and that's the idea.
But do you love your job more than studying?
Yeah.
And is your love for something detrimental?
Is it more important to you to go to your job and work every day so that you can have money to buy pretty things to show off to everyone that you know? Or is it more important for you to know the truth and the Word and build that relationship with God and build that relationship with your family?
Well, and some people can use their job to further their personal, I don't know, mission work, I guess, maybe, that with their giving and with, the work is a means to an end kind of thing, and a lot of things that could be a means to an end, or
simply for me, like we have jobs, like everyone has a job. You have to be able to pay your bills. You have to have power. You have to have water and sewer and all of these things. The catch is realizing that everything around you is a trap.
You have to be very careful of all the traps.
And a distraction. Because it's very easy to become consumed with your job
or with all your activities, or, I mean, there are some churches that are all consuming. Yeah. Because they want you on every committee or volunteering.
And they want you on Wednesdays, and they want you on Sunday mornings and Sunday evenings. And
church isn't necessarily bad. I'm not trying to say that, but church can get in the way of your relationship with God.
Yeah, it can become a distraction.
Yeah, because you can be a Martha cooking for everyone, serving. You're serving, but Mary's at the feet of Christ learning. Yeah. And Martha was mad at Mary, you know? And Christ is like, she's where she needs to be. Yeah. So I always like that comparison, because it's easy to do that. It's so easy to do that because we want to be there for our family. We want to do this for these people, and wanting to give and be there for people is not bad. We're supposed to be there for people and our neighbor and everything else. But at the same time, if we're not growing and going further down the narrow path and learning, how can we, eventually we're going to get to a point where it's detrimental to our journey, and we can't help people as much as we should be able to because we didn't take the time to further our knowledge and further our time with God and prayer. Maybe we were supposed to pray and we didn't pray or spend time in the Word, and we didn't do that, and it was, you know, we missed that time that was going to lead us to some gate along the journey, or some house along the journey, or someone that needed it. But if you don't have the time to spend with God, if all you spend with God is either watching something on your phone, on TV, or an hour or so at church, if that's the only time you've got for God, how do you grow? Yeah. How do you get past the wicket gate, really, on your journey? It's really hard to do that, and I know how hard it is to make time. It's so hard to make time nowadays. We live in such a fast-paced world, and it's full of bright and shiny things that like to distract us. And some of them aren't so bright and shiny. Sometimes it's bad stuff that distracts us. Yeah. And just gets in our head, or gets us in a funk, or gets us in this particular mindset, and it's not something that we want to pick up and deal with. Yeah. But I'd argue that's when you need it most. When it's hardest.
Well, the easiest thing to do is to when you're looking at something, obviously, when you're thinking about buying something or picking something up, just say, do I need this? Do I really need this thing? Or am I doing this out of vanity?
Because I want it.
Yeah.
Because I can.
Because very well that money, you might need it later.
But it could be used to help someone else. Yeah. Very true. So, it's very easy to fall off the side of the path. Yeah. Or turn aside pretty quickly. Nowadays it's with the tap of a thumb.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You spent $300 or $400 on Amazon. Going, how did that stuff end up in my cart, and how was it that expensive?
Now, I like Amazon.
Yeah, I do too.
I do too. The best thing since sliced bread. Don't get me wrong.
I love that when I'm out of something, I can just order it and it's delivered to my door, and I don't have to take the time away from. That's great. It leaves more time for me to do the podcast or research or work on something, so I don't have to run to the store and spend hours there. Yeah. But on the other hand, if I spend an hour looking for something on Amazon, it can be.
Because you can go down. Down a rabbit hole.
That's why I'm selective of our affiliate links. I do my best to be selective, and I don't own every single one of the affiliate links. I might own a few of them. Yeah. But maybe not all of them. But yeah. Vanity Fair for me is... the most recognizable for people today. So, I mean, is there anything else you'd like to add about how Vanity Fair is to you?
To be honest
today?
with you, I think if you read it, or even just listening to us talk about it, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
Just see, and that's the thing where I mentioned before. Just knowing that your job, the television, the radio, the things you buy, just knowing that almost everything that you see day to day is a distraction purposely put there to keep you from what's important, to try and distract you from what is important.
Well, I think so often.
Just knowing that is almost enough, because then you can begin to pick it apart.
Well, if you think about it, just most of the time, we see these examples of, I don't know, I would think of them as bigger things. Well, maybe not see these examples. I've heard of a lot of examples of the thing that comes to mind is the devil comes to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Yeah. That's you hear that one a lot. Okay, he comes. How does he come? That's the thing. You have, when people talk about it.
Yeah.
Typically, when Satan is talked about, they talk about the liar.
Yeah.
Typically, he's not lying.
Yeah.
He's twisting. But, I mean, when you look at your own life, how often were you hit with something big that was just evil, kind of bad?
Yeah.
Versus tiny little things all day. Tiny little things.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before.
Yeah. A chain of
tiny little things.
Non-stop little...
until you're about ready to explode.
Yeah.
And you just stay in that funk. You want to talk about a distraction. And not all distractions are... Vanity Fair is full of beautiful things.
Yeah.
Not ugly things.
Yeah.
So we need to keep that in mind, because some of these distractions may look beautiful or look fantastic, and yet if you're not prepared, you may not see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that the distraction couldn't be used for good. Couldn't be... I mean, these are things that are very, very hard to see, and that could be, on the one hand, could be bad if you blaze off on this new job and work 80 hours a week and, make all this money but have no time. Yeah. That could be, that's a bad distraction. It's shiny and new and pretty. But on the other hand, it could be in the same new job, but you only work 40 hours a week, and you still have time for your family and whatnot, still make more money, which you in turn use the money for good.
Yeah.
I think that we have to be careful when we're presented with things, little and big, to decide, or to maybe not decide, but to be aware of how they work in our lives. Are they distracting us from reading and praying and coming to know our faith deeper? Or are they distracting, or are they just distracting us from it? Are they keeping us from it? Is that all that it's doing? Has it made me more consumed with money or with buying things, or has it, there's so many different things. It's so hard to check yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we like the accountability groups and partners, because sometimes you can't see it.
Yeah.
And you need a person who knows you enough to go, since you took that job, you're really not home anymore. Or you've canceled on us a lot, just when we're doing Bible study. Are you okay? Is something up? And you need that partner. You need that person in your life or group of people who can help you see things that you might not see, because for a new job or a new endeavor, new hobby, new groups at church, new something, it's typically new, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's typically new and shiny, at least for you. But those are great things, and they're exciting. Mm-hmm. And we all get excited, and we all get kind of consumed. I know I go off the deep end a lot, and you have to pull me back, because I get to the point where I get burnt out on it.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm no good to anybody once I've burnt myself out on whatever I'm learning. Mm-hmm. I could probably tell you about everything to know within 2 weeks about the subject.
Yeah.
But then I don't want to talk about the subject anymore, because I've done so much research on it and listened to everything and learned everything for 2 weeks and wrote about it. And I don't want to touch it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That doesn't help me help people.
Yeah.
And you help me not go down that rabbit hole.
I try.
Well, yeah, sometimes I still do, and I'm working on not doing that. But I think that's important for us to all keep in mind and to try to be aware of. So I promised we would come back to explaining where Christian was pretty much through this whole thing.
Yeah.
So he was there. Mm-hmm. He was by Faithful's side, but Faithful did kind of take front and center stage on this one. So when Faithful was executed and when all this was happening, they threw Christian back in jail. Mm-hmm. But through, I'm going to call it divine providence, he was able to escape. He knew what had happened to Faithful. He was able to make it back on to the narrow path. Mm-hmm. And he went on singing about Faithful while he walked and remembering him for what he did.
Yep.
And that is where we will leave him until next time. Mm-hmm. So, if you enjoyed this, and we hope that you did, feel free to subscribe or share this episode or our podcast with anybody. There are plenty of affiliate links in the description. We are Amazon affiliates, which means we could receive a commission if you do any of your Amazon shopping through any of those links at no cost to you, which is partly why we love it so much. And there's lots of resources and different versions of Pilgrims Progress in the description, from audio to Kindle to print, and some nice little gift versions that I've actually purchased. Mm-hmm. So please feel free to check those out. And if you'd like to support the show and what we're doing here, feel free to do your Amazon shopping through one of those links if you like. And if you're interested in seeing what we're doing through the week while we're getting prepared for our next episode, feel free to check out our Facebook or Instagram feed. We have links to those in the descriptions as well. Mm-hmm. Typically we end with quotes, but there's so much going on with John Bunyan that it was so hard to narrow it down. So we just decided that we would do visual quotes on Instagram while we are doing all of our Pilgrims Progress discussions. So if you'd like to check that out, please feel free. And I guess that sets us up for next time. So until then, keep wandering, pilgrims.